Welcome to the Disciples of the Watch podcast.
Disciples, thank you for joining me for another fantastic episode of My Life in 4 Songs here on the Disciples of the Watch podcast. Boy, you're in for a treat. This is a Mr. Mike Jones for you. I know what you're thinking. Who's Mike Jones? Well, that's what I was wondering. So that's why I had to talk to Mike. Mike is he's actually our very first patron on Patreon. And I thought, somebody who's passionate about supporting the show and must be passionate about music, I got to check this guy out. I got to reach out and see if he's interested in doing this show. And he did. We did some juggling with the schedules until we could get something to work out. And then bam, here we are. We finally got together, got the episode recorded, had some fun, and I hope made a new friend. Now, Mike is one of those kids growing up, had the older brothers to help him out and kind of guide him on his path to music discovery, and definitely put him on the right path to some great music. And of course, mom and dad were backing him up with the classic country and all that kind of stuff. So nothing wrong with the foundation on that by any means. And Mike has got a variety of stuff that you're going to listen to here. Well, I guess maybe not as much as possibly Nate had, but at any rate, we're going to dip into some stuff that's not always par for the course in the show. And you know what? That's freaking perfectly fine. Everybody's journey and everybody's choices for their songs are completely up to them. And I encourage that. And especially nowadays where people want to rag on you. I know back in the day, we did too. What, you're into glam metal, man, you're a poser, you're a fake, and whatever, just lame. I don't got time for that anymore. And I hope you don't either, but definitely Mike does not. So we get into his little adventures through life and traveling and moving about the planet, mostly, of course, the United States. But his journey doesn't start there in a fashion. I mean, spoiler alert, his birth. But you'll get there and you'll see what we're talking about as we get through the show here. And before we get to Mike, I just want to remind you all, please, if you're interested in becoming a patron, head over to dotwpod.com. We have links there in the support us area. That's where you can find Patreon. You can find links to buy shirts and all that kind of good stuff. Coffee if you want to do a single donation or anything like that without signing up for Patreon. We got all sorts of different ways you could support the show if you're interested. Also, while you're there, please check out the other episodes. We've got all sorts of good stuff. Nate and I, he's the other co-host. We chat about all sorts of different stuff on episodes. We'll play a variety of music, or we do worst to bests. And like Mike mentions here in the episode here, we go through time travel radio, which is where I go through and I select music from a year and share it and try to dig deep and get some undiscovered stuff. Although now that I'm in 1980, or now that I just finished 1980, I've kind of broadened that a little bit. So that was 3 episodes for 1980, because there's some really killer radio songs that I just wanted to share and get out there. And then we get into deeper cuts as we progress through the episodes. So if you're into that, check that out. And of course, independent music's another one Mike brings up here on the episode that has got so much good stuff from independent artists from all over the world. And if you love discovering talent, then you have to check out the independent music specials. Lots of good stuff there, lots of variety. We start out usually pretty mellow, kind of in the rock vein, or I shouldn't say mellow, but we start out with rock and hard rock, and then we work our way up into heavier, along the lines of death metal. Maybe even some black metal may appear. You never know. But I digress. Lots of good stuff. So check out the website, dotwpod.com, for support information and other episodes. And of course, we're in a lot of the different apps for support. We're in a lot of the other apps for podcasting. So we got you covered in Amazon. We got you covered in Apple. We got you in YouTube, although I wouldn't recommend YouTube. Look us up in Podcast Addict. And usually any player, if they're searching through the Apple database, we're there. Easy to find us. Lots of good stuff, which reminds me, we need to get to this episode. That, again, is Mike Jones chatting to me from New Jersey, Patreon supporter, the number one, the very first. He popped our cherry. This is Mike Jones.
Excellent!
All right, My Life in 4 Songs. I'm hanging with Mike Jones, one of our friends of the show. Mike, how the hell are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing fabulous. It's nice to hang out and chat some music with people. That's something I do enjoy.
Absolutely. This seems to have replaced growing up and going to the record store and, talking with people, kind of the podcast world is sort of taken over for that. So I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah,
that's a good point. It does. Yeah. Extends the community, and you can do it in your own free time. You can pause it when you need to, and you don't have to worry about body odor.
Exactly.
Yours or theirs.
Like I did shower today. So
we're same safe. Here. I'm good. But that's the beauty of doing this over the internet too, is we can't smell each other.
Right.
Not that I expect you look like you take care of yourself, so we're good.
I try my best. My wife appreciates it.
I'm sure a lot of people in your world appreciate it, not just your wife. Where are we talking to you from? I know almost nothing about you. We had a little bit of a chat to break the ice and kind of set the boundaries, no nudity, et cetera, et cetera. Where are you at today?
I am in the glorious town of Lawrenceville, New Jersey. So just about smack dab in the middle of the state, really? Halfway between New York City and Philadelphia.
Wow. Are you a show attender? Do you like seeing live music?
I have actually been to, I did the calculation when I started my latest job. They asked for a fun fact, and my fun fact was that I have been to over 1,000 concerts in my lifetime. So yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Nice. Oh, that's right. And you recently were just at M3.
Yes, I was. That was awesome. First time there, and we'll definitely be going back on a regular basis.
Nice. Now, is that a 3-day?
It was traditionally 3 days, but they've cut it down to 2 now.
Oh, okay.
So it's just Saturday and Sunday at this point.
Oh, I suppose then people have Friday to travel.
Right.
Or did they do a pre-party?
Nice. They do, they've got like a small offsite venue where they do kind of a pre-party thing with some local bands.
Oh, nice.
I guess technically could be considered 3 days, but the tickets are only for 2.
Right. Yeah. And the major events are on the 2 days.
Right.
What was the highlight?
For me, top of mind was seeing Y&T for the 24th time. They're one of my favorite bands, so that was great.
Nice.
Quiet Riot was shockingly good.
Oh, that's good to hear.
They did some love-hate tunes and mixed them in there, which was really cool to hear. Never got a chance to see them live. So that was really neat to hear, Blackout in the Red Room and some of that stuff live and in person. So spectacular.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm obliged to ask at this point, because if you've listened to the show, being a Jersey guy, do you get into Overkill?
Love Overkill, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, first time I saw them was, I want to say 1985, at a tiny little club called the Rainbow when I was living in Denver.
Nice.
It was awesome. Yeah, they did a meet and greet the day before, so I got to meet the guys, and back in the old days with D.D. Verney and everybody, was fabulous, and they were super cool, super chill guys. Been longtime fan.
Awesome. That's good to hear. That you're I was a late bloomer. If you're obviously, you've probably heard that in the show, but yeah, it wasn't until the 90s that I got tipped to where they tripped my trigger. Even though I had heard Years of Decay, It wasn't until Horoscope that things clicked, and then I worked my way backwards, and then I just kept going through the years. So it's nice when you got to see him in those early days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was spectacular, and seen him multiple times since then, and always put on a great show, always great live.
Agreed.
Blitz is a hell of an ambassador for the genre, for sure, and one of the nicest guys on the planet too.
Totally agree to all of that. Yeah, I think that's part of the reason my fandom grew, was seeing him live, seeing the whole band, but watching him as the ringleader of the whole thing, and his interaction with the crowd and the just who he is really was. I left that very first show going, wow, that was like one of the best things I've ever seen. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I still remember the line. So when we did the meet and greet, the first time I met him, I was wearing a Lita Ford t-shirt, and I stepped up to the table, and he was the first one there. He just looked up at me. He said, "Oh, Lita Ford, I fucked her." I was like, "Yeah, was it good?" He said, "Yeah, it was all right." So yeah, I mean, he's completely that guy and always has been. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's got a kick-ass laugh. Just, I would love to spend a day with him, just to soak in his world and see how he is throughout a full day. See if he's always that way, or is that just blitz in front of the camera or the microphone, or when he's meeting people?
No, yeah, he's completely like that. They play a lot of the smaller clubs, kind of one-off shows here and there in Jersey. One of the blessings of being here.
Yes. And
he will always just come out and hang out at the bar with everybody afterwards, and just, completely normal, totally level-headed guy.
Yeah, so, no ego.
And no ego at all, and total fan of music. He'll talk about every other band on the planet besides his own before Overkill ever comes up. So yeah, great guy.
Yeah, you're right in the epicenter. That's why I thought, if you're not an Overkill fan, man, you're missing out. But you're in the right spot and get to experience all that.
I'm absolutely blessed being here, with spoiled for riches with the ability to get to live shows, because and I mentioned before we started recording that the town I live in is almost exactly halfway between New York and Philadelphia, and between the two, there's a show pretty much every night that I could go to. So I try to take full advantage of that.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. There's times where I've wondered if living on the East Coast, or in that zone you're talking about there, at least, would be beneficial to seeing some of the good shows. Because here in the Midwest, sometimes they come into Chicago and then they kind of skirt their way around, or they'll jump up into Canada. And so right. We still get good shows here in Minneapolis, don't get me wrong, but not as much as, being on one of the coasts, or, in some of those frequently traveled spots that bands will hit.
Right. Yeah. I came up, was a military brat early on, but then my dad hung it up and we moved to Colorado. So yeah, I had the advantage of going to early shows at Red Rocks and all of the McNichols Arena and all the amphitheaters and small clubs around town, and pretty much every band always swung through Denver. So started out with that advantage, and then coming out here, it just grew, and even more opportunities. So it's been great.
That is awesome. Well, I want to get on with the music. I like you sent me your selections, and I'm familiar with most of it. I did do some research, though, before the show and checked out the rest of it. But there was one band in particular, and we'll get to that really, as soon as I saw it, the song jumped into my head, and I immediately thought, I need to go back and listen to that whole album and just sit there and soak it in again, because it's been too long.
Right.
But that's a teaser. We'll get to that. So, let's start at the beginning. How does music come into your life? Is your dad into it? Your mom? Anybody in your world? Siblings?
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of three boys. My oldest brother is 15 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
And then my other brother is 2 years older than me. So, coming in, when I first remember hearing music, it was from my older brother. And, he was a big Beatles, Who, Stones guy. We had, Beatles 45s lying around. And I remember, the very first album that I ever had was given to me by my eldest brother, which was Disraeli Gears from Cream.
Nice.
That was kind of the linchpin, what started it for me. And then, went on a voyage of discovery. My parents, we would listen to music in the car, but generally it was what they wanted. And they were very much into old school country, honky tonk, your Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Glenn Campbell, things like that. So, but so I got a pretty broad exposure to sort of both sides, and then they were big churchgoers, so there was a lot of gospel, the country gospel growing up. So those were kind of the early memories of what I remember, kind of kicking off my love for music.
That's a nice foundation.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're talking, nothing wrong with classic country, don't get me wrong, but that foundation of rock and roll that you were exposed to by such an elder brother.
Right.
That's a pretty good leap in distance between the two. It's either, sometimes people they rebel against it because it's, you're old, that's old people music, or they latch onto it.
Right.
Because my uncle was 2 years older than me. So we had, it was similar to like a brother, little bit of an older brother situation. What about the brother, it was just between you two?
He and I were very in line. So we kind of grew up together listening to the same music, kind of got exposed at the same time. Even though I was a couple of years behind him, it's very much the same journey, at least early on. We went to our first few concerts together and, would go to the record store together early, ride our bikes over to, the local record shop, Peaches Records and Tapes there in Arvada, Colorado. Shout out to my old school people there in Arvada. And, go flipping through the bins and, just talking to the cool old teenagers when we were there, 10, 11, 12 years old, looking what they were picking up and asking if it was good and getting advice from them and, starting on that musical journey and, figuring out what it was you like, what you didn't like.
Nice. So let's work our way to your first song then. How does this come into your orbit?
So early on, the band Kiss was the shit in the 70s. They Kiss Meets the Fan Out of the Park, all the visual stuff, the Kiss comic books. I remember end caps of Kiss albums being in the grocery store way back when. And we picked up, my brother and I picked up both Hotter Than Hell and Kiss Alive at the same time. I bought Alive, he bought Hotter Than Hell, brought them home. Had no idea what any of the what any of the songs were about. I just enjoyed the imagery of it probably more than anything, more than the music, until I put the music on. And then I was like, wow, this is what I want. This is what I latched onto, the distorted guitars, the demon and the Star Child and just everything that went along with it. It was kind of all encompassing for a while. I plastered my walls in Kiss posters and, clippings from the magazines, as we all did back in the 70s and 80s. So that was kind of really what started it for me. That was my first favorite band was Kiss, and followed their musical journey all the way through. Actually, got to go to the second to the last Kiss show, so at Madison Square Garden before they hung it up, and kind of felt like a very full circle moment for me. But Kiss Alive, just hearing the difference between Hotter Than Hell, the studio version, and the live version, like the passion in it, just the power to it that they couldn't really capture early on in the studio, made a huge difference for me. And like the Alive album, I straight wore that thing out. Just flipping open the gatefold and looking at the pictures and seeing Gene just dripping in blood and sweaty, and it was just so awesome as a kid.
Did you ever have that moment of checking out of the band then during like the 80s, or were you solid all the way?
Solid all the way. Yeah, never left them. Followed them all the way through. One thing I've always appreciated about them was they tended to sort of follow trends, but they did it in the Kiss way. They had the Kissco era, they had their grunge era, they had their hair metal era. They followed it all, but at the base of it, to me, it was still Kiss. It was still them. They were still true to who they were. Never had a problem with it. Never lost me.
Nice. Yeah, there's like a soul or a root that was always attached. So even when they stepped outside of what like was normal Kiss, because I Was Made for Loving You is still like one of their top streamed songs. People love that song, and it's one of the songs that they get the most shit for too.
Right. Yeah, and like the Carnival of Souls albums, that was kind of their grunge era, and it's one of my top 3 or 4 albums probably.
Really? Nice.
Overall, I love the sound on that one. It's just, there's something about it that just, captures the moment, and every one of their albums takes me back to that point in time, as part of my journey. And, they all live inside me. So I think it's great. They're still one of my favorite bands, always have been, always will be. I mean, hell, I even have a Kiss tattoo. So
oh, nice.
Why not? Yeah.
Regarding the song, your selection that you have here, why that one particularly? Because this one does get brought up, so it's not one that I was like shocked about. But right. As far as like the pantheon of Kiss and Kiss fans in this album, I'm curious as to why this song.
Just thinking back along, like what influenced me and what sort of stuck with me, and this is one of those songs that if I have like a crap song stuck in my head, all I have to do is think of the lyrics, and this song takes over for me. It lives inside my head 24/7, 365. So the song for me, my first official pick is Rock Bottom off Alive. And there's just something about I think the structure of the song and that bass line and everything that just it gets me. And if I'm having a crap day, if I'm in a shitty mood, I pop that on, smile on my face, and I'm right back to level. It's always been one of those songs. If I'm sitting in the car, I pull up and the first note hits as I pull into the garage, I'm going to sit in the car and listen to the whole song before I step out. So it's just one of those perfect rock songs for me.
Did you watch Family Jewels?
I did, yes.
What are your thoughts on that show?
Great. Like, Gene is such a character. Like,
yes.
He's a great guy. Despite his misogyny and lust for money, he's true to himself, and he is who he is, and he's not shy about being who he is. The fascinating thing to me, more so in that show, was the kids, Nick and Sophie, and how well grounded they were. considering who their parents are and the way they grew up.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a great show.
And it was, for me, it was nice to kind of get to know his wife. I mean, we've seen pictures of her throughout the years in various states of dress and undress. But it was cool to see her behind the scenes and just her strength and her, I think that was also key to having well-rounded children, was that she wasn't going to be a pushover, or that she was not going to be he didn't marry some ditzy woman. He right. Or shouldn't say, because obviously it took him a while to get the marriage. So he didn't hook up with somebody that was just a piece of eye candy. He was with somebody who was the full package, brains and everything.
Right. Yeah. And she was, just as strong a personality as him, and, wouldn't take his crap. So yeah, they're a great rock and roll couple. Even
though she's from Canada. I joke, of course.
It's northern Minnesota, really.
Or what is it, The Simpsons says, America's hat? Well, yes, very, very lovely woman. And yeah, that was one thing I did like about the show. We watched, I don't know if I've seen all of it, but I saw a fair amount. And that was one of my takeaways too. And that was a good point with the kids, is they weren't completely broken with that upbringing by any means.
Absolutely.
Where are you living around this time then, when you're discovering KISS?
We were in Colorado at that point, Arvada, which is a suburb of Denver.
Okay.
Kind of where we landed. Yeah. Prior to that, like I said, my dad was in the Navy. I was actually born in Spain, and then we were in Hawaii, Pearl Harbor for a while, and San Diego, and then he hung it up and we moved to Colorado.
So how long were you in Denver then?
I was in Denver. We moved there in 76, and then moved, was there pretty much full time until I moved to New Jersey back in 2008.
So 76, yeah. So you were tipped off to this not long after that came out then.
Right. Yeah, and as kids, we would, play KISS and, pick up the tennis racket and pretend it was the guitar and the bass, and, get some buckets and some chopsticks. And I was always Peter. So.
Oh, so you got drumming aspirations?
That was as far as it got, was aspirations.
You weren't relegated to that spot by your older siblings or anything like that? They're like, you're going to be Peter because we're going to be the guys up front.
Yeah, no, it was my choice.
Nice.
At least I think it was my choice.
Did you do the makeup too then?
We did, yeah.
Nice. Have you worn it since?
Have not since, no.
I don't know. That's probably part of the problem with getting old, is we don't wear KISS makeup enough.
That's true.
Nowadays. Yeah. I'd like to see you on the train heading into New York. Full cat.
I'm the cat man.
Absolutely. And probably nobody would blink an eye, because we see it all out here.
Oh, I bet. How many times have you seen him live then?
KISS I had seen, I want to say 10 times.
Oh, nice. What was the first time?
First time was Animalize.
Nice.
There was makeupless KISS the first few times, and then they circled back around and put the makeup back on.
All right, so we're going to move on then. Set me up for this next band. Where are we at in your world now?
So probably middle school, started to expand a little more. The new wave of British heavy metal comes rolling through town.
Yes.
So you're getting a little more crunchy, a little more screamy, moving out of, the straight up rock and roll era to, a lot more power, as, Saxon and Judas Priest are coming into play, bands of that ilk. The LA scene hasn't quite exploded yet, but I remember walking in initially to the record store, just picking out albums based on how cool the cover is, right? Like Number of the Beast, Screaming for Vengeance, albums like that. And really getting into things that, kind of became my band. And, then rolling on with that on into high school. And, Iron Maiden kind of took over for me. since then, they've been my absolute favorite band. They can do no wrong in my eyes, except for Blaze Bayley. But, it's
I don't think you're alone in that one.
little blip on the radar. But we all have our moments of wrongness in our lives. But yeah, so Maiden kind of took over, and there were probably weeks in middle school and high school where I wore a different Maiden shirt to school every day. They were just, they were that cool. They had the imagery, again, similar to Kiss with Eddie, and the sound and everything else. I remember when back then we had to get all of our information about upcoming albums from the magazines, reading Cream and Hit Parader and Rip, and saw that the release date was coming up for the Power Slave album, and had a bunch of all my long-haired, metalhead, ne'er-do-well friends. We decided that we all wanted to get the new Maiden album the day it came out, so we ditched school, piled in my car, drove down to the local record shop, and as the guy was busting open boxes, we were grabbing the Power Slave album. Immediately took the cassette, popped it in the car, drove around and listened to it, and we're just absolutely blown away by the album. My next song is kind of tied to that memory because it's such a strong thing. Still really good friends with everybody that was that ditched with me.
Oh, nice.
All these years later, from the mid '80s till now, it's a story that we've told all of our children about, ditching school to go buy this album, and the kids just don't get it now with the streaming. It's not the same. You don't have that same experience. There's no more waiting in line to get concert tickets. There's no more any of that. So I'm absolutely blessed to have come up when I did, and to be able to live through that and have those experiences, have those memories. But yeah, the song that really, really sticks with me, really captures me from that one is 2 Minutes to Midnight. And there again, it's, just the structure of the song, the intro, like from that first note, it's just like, yeah, it's one of those, that just grabs you by the soul and doesn't let go.
that's an album that you there's no song that you could go wrong with, unless you're going to pick the instrumental, I guess, because that's don't get me wrong, I think it's a great instrumental and I do enjoy listening to it, but I'd be surprised for someone to pick that as like the song that they wanted to share.
Right. Yeah. And when I was picking, I think I did go through every single song on that album except for the Lost for Words. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it still fits in great where it's at. And I wouldn't want the song to be off of the album. Yeah. As far as a pick off of this album, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner obviously can be a little bit long, but you know, that's damn near twice the length of most of the stuff on here, I think, except for Power Slave, because that's a little over 7 minutes. Yeah, I did have the pleasure of seeing them twice on the Power Slave tour as well. One of the blessings of being in Denver. The first time was they came through in the winter, and Twisted Sister was the opening act on the bill. But when they were setting up for the Denver show, I remember hearing a story that Dee Schneider had dropped something on his foot and broken his foot, so they weren't able to play. So it was just Maiden. And because there was no opening act, they did an extra long set. So they broke out. Nice. Played for about 3.5 hours, and they were breaking out songs that they hadn't played in forever. You know, they did Sunrise's Gold. They did, several songs off the early albums that they hadn't played live for decades. And it was an absolute treat. Do you recall where you got into Maiden? Your first exposure? My first exposure to Maiden was wandering into a record store, flipping through the bin and seeing the cover of Number of the Beast and going, ooh, that's evil as hell. I got to buy that. Having no idea who the band was or what they sounded like. And then from there, I worked my way backwards. It was prior to Peace of Mind coming out. So I think Number of the Beast was still, a fairly new issue at that point. So, didn't have too far backwards to go, and not really realizing, without the power of the internet, I'm like, the singer sounds different on these first couple albums. Like, I wonder what happened to him. And then you're reading like, oh, it's a different guy. Still great songs, a little more punky, a little less shreddy, but still Maiden at heart. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Steve Harris, you can't deny he's got that. It's like when you hear Stevie Ray Vaughan or somebody, that thumbprint or that DNA is in the music, and you can't escape the Steve Harris Iron Maiden. With British Lion, I think he can kind of flex a little bit outside of that, but when he's working with Maiden, he's got a sound that he's going for. And, absolutely. With all those guys working together, there's a chemistry there and it just clicks. For sure. Yeah. It always harkens back to, I remember hearing a quote from Scott Ian from Anthrax, where he said, Steve Harris's right hand is metal. And that one stuck with me, and it's totally true. Like, you just see those fingers working and it's like, damn. Absolutely. Yeah, and those fingers turned a lot of people onto heavy music, hard rock, heavy metal. So yeah, I agree with Scott Ian. It's hard to argue with him. Okay, so now I got to ask this question, because this one seems to be a little bit different for my Iron Maiden fans. I mean, I guess every band has their albums that people tend to pick through as their top album. What would be your top Maiden album? For me, I waffle between Peace of Mind and Number of the Beast. Really? It's my two. Yeah. Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner kind of pushes it down for me, but it's still Maiden. It's still a great song. But yeah, so it's 1A and 1B for me, depending on what day you ask me. I can understand that. What about Bruce's solo stuff? Have you checked out that new album too? I have, yeah, and it's excellent. Bruce, one of the greatest voices in metal. He is definitely up there. Yeah, I appreciate the solo stuff. A lot of it does have a Maiden flavor to it, but it's not Maiden-ish. Because of who he is, he can surround himself with spectacular musicians and, put out quality product. But of the Bruce solo stuff, I'd say Balls to Picasso is probably my favorite. Oh, really? Yeah, that one I think captures the essence of who he is as a performer as well.
some great stuff on there. But yeah, there's it isn't quite the quality of Maiden, but still good stuff.
How excited were you when they got back together with Bruce? And question 2, what are your thoughts on that album?
Was totally psyched post, Virtual X, and that just killed me. Like, the Blaze was so the wrong choice for them.
Agreed.
He just didn't have the right flavor. They could have gone many different directions, but Bruce coming back, and big fan of the comeback album. Probably close to my top 10, I would say, Maiden albums. Not quite there, but I think I'm probably in the minority of the post-reunion albums being up there in some of my favorites. Senjutsu is, I think, a spectacular album.
Really?
I think it, they could have probably benefited from a producer or someone stepping in and saying, hey, you want to shorten those songs up a little bit? But at the same time, like, that's who they are. They've got the epic, right? That's what they do. That's part of their makeup. So yeah, it works for me. I mean, it's probably one of my favorite headset albums. Just to plug it in and listen closely and really absorb it in your ears rather than kind of playing it out loud. I think it loses something. I think it's one of those that really does benefit from listening to it with the headphones on.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been meaning to get back to that one. It's been a while since I've listened to it, probably since it came out.
Yeah. I think I've probably listened to it 5 or 6 times through when I first picked it up, and really lived with it for a while. So that, I think that helped. But then again, like, music nowadays, it's not like the old days when you would buy a new album, call up all your friends, and they'd all hop into your room, and you'd sit there and put the album on and keep flipping it over back and forth, and everybody reading the liner notes and the lyrics and trying to figure out what this means, what that means. So yeah, I think as I've grown older, I listen to music differently than I used to, but it's still just a huge part of my life.
That is awesome. Yeah, this song was the one that, as soon as I saw it in your message, it immediately started playing in my brain. And that's where the one where I'm like, I have to go spend some time with that album. Not just the song, just that whole album. And I even listened to it again before we started recording. And what I was going to do is just play like a little snippet to it, kind of get it in my brain. But like you were talking about with the car, with the Kiss song, it's like if I'm pulling in the garage, I'm going to keep going. I couldn't stop it. I ended up listening to the whole damn song as I was getting ready for recording with you, just because it's such a kick-ass song. It's from a kick-ass album. This would be probably my top album from Maiden. But I was a latecomer too. This is actually, I think, the album that got me into Maiden. They were in the peripheral of my friend group, as far as, from the previous albums. More so the Dickinson albums. But when this one came out, the artwork alone for me, wanting to be Indiana Jones or a Egyptologist or whatever, seeing that artwork just right away clicked with me. And then to be able to listen to that album and have it be so good. So it's not like, well, it's a great cover, but the album sucks. You don't have that. This is the complete package.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we lose nowadays with streaming services and smaller format things is picking up the actual LP of that and looking at the detail in the art on the cover and seeing all the little Easter eggs that they hid in there in the drawings, and just picking all that out of it and being fascinated by that. We're such a short attention span consumers now.
Yeah.
And, people have become, I think, lazy listeners and, tend to kind of go back to the same things over and over again, rather than, trying to have a voyage of discovery and continue to go out and listen to new things and really delve in. I'm blessed to be able to have a bunch of friends who are all like big into music and hey, have you checked out this band? And, hey, I'm a big fan of this band. And you got to, go take a deep dive, and I'll spend days just listening to, entire discographies. It's like, how the hell have I never heard of this band before? There's so much out there, so much that we've missed, so many bands that are big in Europe that never made it in the States that are awesome. And, if you never have the chance, and, we've got the entire world in our pockets all day long, every day with, Spotify and, Apple Music and Amazon. And, I think we've lost how blessed we are to be able to do that. And, just go out there and discover music, and, just looking at, hey, if you like this band, try these 5, and, just go out there and keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding.
Totally agree. And then that's the nice thing too with podcasting is people turning people on to other music, or you can hear discussions about some of your favorite bands. If you're like, I don't know, one of the 2 Kiss podcasts that are out there, there's got to be more than 2, right? I'm being facetious, of course, because it seems like there's God. So it's nice that there's these options, and that helps to spread the music. Actually, today I was looking at REO Speedwagon. I just did a Gimme 5 on REO Speedwagon, and I am shocked at how much people are hitting that one up. And it's only been out for a little over 24 hours. And I did a special, so it's 5 songs, REO Speedwagon from 1971 to 1979. And I'm surprised, but it's cool because it's music that maybe people either are going to revisit because they're familiar with it and they want to rekindle that relationship, or they're completely brand new. And it's like, hey, I'm going to go check that out. So it's awesome that people are doing the work.
Right. And that's one of the things that I, appreciate about what you're doing is, between the time travel radio and the independent music specials, like I've probably picked up albums and, downloaded things from probably 15, 20 bands because of, listening to that. And like, they're time travel. It's like, oh my God, I completely forgot about this song.
Yes.
And you go back and you're like, oh shit. Like, why have I never done a deep dive on, Black Oak, Arkansas? I listened to the songs on the radio, but I've never listened to full albums. And now I have the ability to just hit a couple buttons, and all of a sudden, I'm listening to the entire discography all day long. It's like, wow, these guys are great. And, same with the independent music special, like, bands from around the world that
yes,
you have no idea. And you see the reach and the power of music, when you get bands from, France or the Middle East, and they were all, you can obviously hear the influence, and you wonder how it reached them, but you appreciate the fact that they've taken the time to, master the craft enough to write songs and put stuff out.
Yeah, it's nice now in today's age with the music being so available and having this wide open world available to us, is we are now the curators of our own musical museums, and we can grab so much from the independent artists, like you're saying, or going back in time and digging deep into a catalog or an artist that, you may have only scratched the surface with, or maybe even never heard. Have you had a chance to check out the new time travel radio then?
Yes, I have.
So lots of good new wave of British heavy metal on there.
100%. Yeah. And God bless you for being able to whittle it down to the songs that you did, because if it was me doing it, it'd be 20 episodes, because I just, I could never pick which ones to leave out.
Yes, it is tough. And that's why I had to expand it to 3. And I'm hoping to be able to just kind of keep it within that framework. But I've already started doing my research for 1981, and I'm very curious to see what it's going to do to me as far as, because you gotta sometimes just pull the trigger and say, you know what, I'm not going to play that band because I've done it enough, or that song has already got enough radio play. But then sometimes it's like, God, I just love it so much, I have to put it in there. Right.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse when you get to 83, 84, 85, 86, because when you start thinking about God, what was released those years, it's like, oh my God, there's just so much.
I know. I may have to do like a time travel radio bands start with the letter B. Or maybe I can go A through C or something like that. We'll see what happens when we get there. But damn, I'm hoping to not have to inundate people with that much. But then again, if that's what people want, then yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll extend it to even more episodes. But yes, that is my concern, is as I get into, I want to say 83 is kind of where I'm thinking I'm going to start hitting that problem where it's like there's too much and I'm having trouble pulling enough to get, because now I'm going to be doing 40 songs per episode. Like I finished off with the Time Travel Radio Part 3 on 1980. So 40 plus the bonus track. And I already found one from 1980 that I missed. I can't believe I missed it. I have no idea how I missed it because it's a big song. So there's a teaser for the very first episode of 1981 that'll be coming down the pike. Speaking of coming down the pike, so we're moving on through time now. One thing I do want to comment on too, and I do appreciate that you followed kind of my initial spark for the show when I came up with the idea, was spreading out the music time-wise, not necessarily musical genre-wise. That's up to the listener. But some of the people are where that spark hits so hard, and then the dominoes start falling to where it's like 1985, 1987, 1989. It's like, come on, get me to the 90s at least.
Right.
But I've learned to just let the show be the show, let the guest dictate their path. So when I saw your variety and your spread in time, I thought, okay, cool. I'm going to be very curious to get there. And getting into your next song, actually, that was one. This is a song that I enjoyed, a song that my wife really enjoys, partially because it's got her name in the title, but the song itself is a beautiful piece of work. Okay, first of all, before we get to how you discovered the song, where are we around this time frame?
So I have gotten through college at this point, working man, married to my first wife. So the live music is slowed down. Have my baby son, born in 95, and it kind of puts the brakes on things. But I'm still a massive music fan, still going as much as I can to live shows. Again, was blessed to be in the Denver area and to have just a lot of friends that were involved in sort of the live music industry, getting comp tickets and things like that. So saving the budget for me, and just discovering bands through friends. And this particular band was actually an ex-girlfriend who I remained friends with after I got married, and she was sort of one of my concert buddies. So we would go to shows together a lot, and because she was a dude in a chick's body, basically. We'd go to shows, and she would be like the only girl there, and just dragging me to things. And she turned me on to this band, Sevendust, who, again, I'm kind of drawn to singers with spectacular voices. And to me, Lejean is, again, one of the greatest, purest rock voices in the business.
Yes.
Rolling through, she turned me on early. Again, seen Sevendust live probably, 10 to 12 times throughout my life. Always spectacular live. They sound probably better live than they do in the studio, which is hard to do quality wise. And, between him and Morgan, with his screamo on the drums, it's a good offset, great guitar tone, great sound. But, leads me into the home album from Sevendust and Angel's Son. Just a beautiful song, heartfelt tribute. To me, part of it that hit hard was, I had a 4-year-old son at that point, and hearing those lyrics, man, it's just, it's powerful. It's heart-wrenching, beautiful song, beautiful lyrics. And, you can have songs like Denial and Bitch and, just things that like rip out your spine, and then also have the ability to tone it down and just play a beautiful song. Yeah, again, this is another one of those songs that I'm not leaving the car until the song is done, kind of a thing. Yeah, I think pretty much any Sevendust song for me is like that, though. That they, in my mind, they don't have a weak album at all throughout their catalog. So definitely one of my top 20-25 bands all time.
Life is changing and I can't go on without you. Rearranging and I will be strong. I'll stand by you. You are fighting every day, so what do I pray? So much left to say. One last song given to an angel's son. As soon as you walk home, as soon as you walk home.
So you were you in early with Sevendust then in their career?
I was, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Probably saw them for the first time live, I would say, 96, 97, somewhere in there, fairly early. And not sure how we came across them, but we did.
Did you ever pick up the that tribute that they did for Lynn Strait then, that this was off of?
Yes, I did.
Nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's some good stuff on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Home was a pretty solid album as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny thinking about it. We've had two 6 degrees of separation in a fashion from JJ French today.
Yes. Yeah, with Twisted Sister opening for Maiden, and then producing Sevendust. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and that's so awesome. Those guys are still going strong. That, you know, not a lot of bands, especially, you know, is because obviously they're hot, they're coming out and they're engaging, and sometimes people move away from bands like that. But you got a singer, like you said, like with Lejean and good songwriting. You can keep going for eternity with that whole package.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I hear a band like Sevendust, and I'm always just stunned that they aren't bigger. And you wonder what it is that holds them back. But, you know, they've got the perseverance to keep driving, keep going out there. And, you know, you think about, you know, with Morgan being married to the bassist from Cold Chamber, and like, how does that not expand their fan base? And, you know, I've seen them headline a couple times. You know, the last time I saw them, they opened for Clutch, you know, great show, but, you know, they aren't so proud at this point in their career that they aren't willing to step back and, you know, take the second slot just to get out there and play.
You know, that's a good point, because I think that's something I thought of in the past. And when you brought it up just now, that reminded me, yeah, I think this is a band that I feel should be a little bit bigger, get a little bit more attention. And maybe that's part of the reason I'm getting a little bit surprised that, you know, or not surprised, that I made my comment earlier regarding that they're still out there and they're still doing it, because, you know, they didn't go out there with like some artists that's like, well, if we can't be at the top, if we can't be up at the, you know, the headliner at an arena, and we can't maintain that through the rest of our careers, then we don't want to do this anymore. They're in it for the art. And like you said, whether it's the big stage or playing second to a bigger band that's drawing more people, just getting out there and sharing your craft. That's another reason I think I respect them. But, you know, back to your comment, yeah, this is one, especially when I listen to like those first 2 or 3 albums, it's like, how the hell are people not just really excited about this band more so?
Right. I mean, yeah, you take like anybody who's like a fan of, say, Pantera, and you throw on Black, like, how do you not love that? Right. It's sort of the same approach, same structure, same, you know, vocal arrangement with, you know, the ability to take it down a notch and then come out and just scream at the top of your lungs and still be in control. It's beautiful music.
Yeah, I was looking at their discography. I guess I kind of dipped out after Time Travelers and Bonfires, because I don't think I've spent much time with the following albums: Kill the Flaw, All I See Is War, Blood and Stone, or Truth Killer. So I definitely need to do some homework on that. I'm not sure why especially being on the podcast. Maybe it's because Nate never wants to talk about Sevendust. I don't know.
Damn it, Nate.
He's not so much into those bands. But yes, this song in particular, coming back to that, hearing it on that, because that was my first exposure, was from that Lynn Strait. I'm not a fan of Snot, but I saw that was coming out, and I looked at all the people that were involved in it, and I was like, well, I'm just going to buy this.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, already knowing Sevendust at that point. But man, when I started collecting vinyl again, that was one of the ones that's like, I got to get that first album for sure on vinyl. And even though I've got the CD already, I got to get that first one on vinyl, because that's such a good cover to cover album. So strong, great debut. Totally dig it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I just started to do. I just within the last couple months picked up a turntable again and getting back into vinyl collecting. I love physical product. I love, you know, even with the downloads and the streams and everything, I still, you know, I've got an entire wall of CDs in my living room. You know, there's just something about just picking something out and feeling it and listening to it in track order, the way the band wants you to listen to it, rather than, you know, listening to a song here and there on Scramble. Yeah, I think that's one thing that you know, the next generation of music fans is probably missing out on, is sequencing of albums and listening to things in order. And you know, when I listen to things on Scramble, sometimes it just drives me absolutely insane, because I'll hear a song and I'll be like, oh, this song needs to be next, and then it's not. Yep. It kills me, and it's like, no. You know,
Yep. I've been there before too. I understand. And that's another thing too, is, you're investing in it and you're putting, however much of your working day into purchasing this thing. And now we obviously have the luxury of being able to sample things, not so much when we were kids, unless your local record store had CD players where they'd let you throw the headphones on and they had an open copy you could sample with. But a lot of times, like you were talking about in those early Maiden albums and stuff, is back to Kiss. You saw the cover and went, I'm taking this home. Robert Carlson, who I just had on for My Life in 4 Songs, buying the Grateful Dead, thinking this is an awesome record. The art and the name of the band, it's got to be awesome. And then being completely disappointed because it was the Grateful Dead. But then, hitting a home run with was it Motley Crue, or I think it was Motley Crue that he did pick that one up on site. I don't remember, but that physical product that you're talking about, it's part of it is, yes, that whole experience where that smell, that CD, that booklet's got a smell, or that vinyl, you crack that cellophane and you get that smell, and that's part of it too. And going through and looking at the pictures and depending on how well the package is put together. But part of it is like, you got a little bit of ownership in this band. I just contributed to their well-being. If they're good, I want to keep buying their stuff. I want them to keep putting out material. And I think that the younger generation, especially with vinyl having this resurgence, I have a feeling that some of those, younger ones are starting to kind of pick up where we were back in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, and I hope the trend continues, because it's spectacular. And then you see, some of these record companies doing a lot of re-releases for like Record Store Day, and getting the ability to pick up some of those albums that are out of print, and having them repressed and everything. It opens up the opportunity to get like all the things that I regret giving away over the years.
Actually, you brought that up earlier, and I was going to ask you, and I forgot about it till just now. Is Morgan still married to, God, what was her name?
I know, I think they're divorced now, but
I was going to say, I thought for some reason in my brain, I thought, no, I don't think they're together, but I thought maybe I was thinking of somebody else. Raina, was that her name?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she was the bassist in Cold Chamber, right?
Yes. Yeah, and they had a kid together, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Raina Foss. There we go. I found it. That was going to drive me crazy. Yep, one child born in 1999, and they are divorced. He then married Terry Harrison in 2008, and they had a kid, and they have divorced.
All right.
Hey, sometimes being married to a musician isn't the easiest thing. Ask my wife.
Yeah. Especially the crazy drummer.
Drummers especially. You said it, not me, but I'm agreeing with you. All right, so this next selection, another one that I want to give kudos to, just because I'm not familiar with the artist per se, but the genre. I went through a phase where I listened to nothing but, and for a while there I thought, am I out of heavy metal now? Is this the end of that? Because now I found this and it's really hitting me. I don't know if it was just the moment or if it was just the discovery and digging through the various artists from this genre. But before we get to the song, moving in through our timeline now, because this is a more recent release, where are we at now in your life?
So we've moved on. We've grown up. Sometimes the kids are in the car, so you can't throw on, screaming death metal, or they rebel hard. Kind of, got older, mellowed out a bit, maybe, but not completely. Got kind of rediscovered the blues. I've always been a guy who listens to a lot of different genres. Like, metal's always my go-to, no matter what. But I'm a fan of reggae. I'm a fan of old school outlaw country because of my parents. I'm a fan of the blues and quality guitar players.
Okay, so let me pause you right there. So you're one of those people, when Nate brings in one of those songs, You're one of those people that are like, hell yeah, this is cool because it's completely sideways from what we would normally play on the show.
100%, yes.
That's awesome.
I've got a playlist on my streaming service that is my likes, and it is like the most schizophrenic playlist on the planet. It'll go from a band like Angelus Patrida to Willie Nelson to Joe Bonamassa to Sade, and it's just like all over the place, and I love it. But if I'm driving with somebody in the car and they're listening to it, they look at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How do you like all
I can see that.
It's like, it's all good. It all works for me.
Yeah, it's all good. Exactly. So this artist, how did you get turned on to this? Because this is one, like I said, I have never heard of this artist.
So this one was one of those just random. So I was watching the series Nick Cage on Netflix. And one of the things, there was a blues club that one of the crime kingpins owned. And every episode they would have a live band on stage. And it was like a legit band. And was watching one of the episodes, and this guy, Christone Kingfish Ingram, was up on stage playing blues guitar, and I was just like, holy shit, this guy is absolutely blowing my mind right now. And I looked him up, and I think at the time he was probably 17, 18 years old, but he had the spirit of, Robert Johnson, a B.B. King, like living inside of him. He's just an absolute prodigy, absolutely owns and destroys that guitar and can play the living shit out of it. And I think I rewound the song probably 5-6 times and listened to it again and again. And I was like, oh my God, this is spectacular. And then fast forward to the credits, like I got to know who this guy is on this episode. And immediately went online, found his website. I was like, how many albums does he have out? I'm ordering all this shit right now. So yeah, Christone Ingram, like just an amazing blues guitar player. He sounded like he's been smoking Marlboro Unfiltered his whole life for 50 years in 12. And just absolutely spectacular. But the song that I picked is called "Fresh Out," and it's just one of those songs that could be brand new or it could be 100 years old, and just an absolutely timeless, beautiful song.
Coffee for my breakfast, no butter on my roll. I ain't got a drop of milk for the cornflakes in my bowl. I'm fresh out. Baby, I'm all fresh out. Ain't had no loving since the day. Ooh, girl, you went away. I'm fresh out. No jelly in the jar, no flour in the sack. I ain't got nothing cooking, babe. Please, won't you come back? I'm fresh out. I'm all fresh out. Ain't had no loving since the day. Ooh, girl, you went away. I'm fresh out.
I drank up my last bottle of Johnny Walker Red. Nobody in this big house but me in my empty bed. I'm fresh out. Baby, I'm fresh out. I had no loving since the day you went away. I'm fresh out. Yeah, no doubt. I'm fresh out.
He is 25 years old as of January.
Yes.
So still a lot of career ahead of that young buck.
Yes.
And this features Buddy Guy on guitar as well.
Yeah. So yeah, they've recognized him. I think he's won several like blues-based awards. I've actually had the pleasure of seeing him live one time. He played at a small club outside of Philadelphia, came on stage and just absolutely blew my mind. And he is, again, great guy, totally approachable. He brought up a couple of local Philadelphia guys who were, big bluesmen too, like that nobody had ever heard of, got them on stage, and they did just a completely off the cuff jam for probably 20, 25 minutes. That was one of the coolest live experiences I've ever had. And he absolutely pulls it off.
Nice. So do you have that live album that he's got then?
I do. Yes. Yeah. I own everything that he's ever put out. So he's just amazing.
That's one thing I found sometimes is live blues can sometimes transcend what's recorded. I mean, we've talked about that when you're talking about Kiss and stuff. So bands can do that, but there's just something about live blues in that energy of the moment. And maybe it's because it's because it's the blues, to not compare it to what Kiss was doing. Yes, don't get me wrong, live too. And still a lot of albums that we love from rock and metal that are live albums that are like quintessential albums. But there's something for me, at least maybe it's just me, that's with the live blues, if it's done well and if it's recorded right, that can just really pull you in or really hit that spot where you need the blues so you can stop feeling the blues, or you can, wallow in the blues that you're feeling, whatever it might be, or, you're playing the jump blues and you're getting out of that funk or whatever it might be, but there's just something about it. So now seeing this live album, that's got me really interested that maybe I need to go check that out.
Yeah, definitely give that one a spin. He's, like I said, I think we're blessed to have discovered him and have him be famous early on in his life. So we're going to have, the next 50 years of him being the man out there, similar to like a Joe Bonamassa that it's, came on the scene when he was just a teenager and, absolutely dominated.
Speaking of Joe, do you dig Black Country Communion?
I do, but with a bit of a grain of salt. I think a lot of their songs, considering, it's Joe Bonamassa, Glenn Hughes, like those guys, it should be a little bit better than it is. And some of it does feel like, hey, isn't that the riff from like another song? Like that sounds sort of like, when the levee breaks right there, or that puts a bit of a damper on it, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm the same way, where you could probably grab everything they put out and have a really nice greatest hits package, and with some of those songs that are more the top notch pieces. I think that first album may be the best one. Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've checked them out, but when you brought up Joe's name, that kind of popped in my head because I know they're working on another album. So I'll be curious to hear that. But one thing, that is a good point. I like it. I like to think of it as they're trying to do a little bit of a nod to the greats that, obviously that Jason Bonham grew up around, and
right.
And that Glenn Hughes did drugs with all those people back in the 70s and 80s.
I mean, the guy was, he was in Deep Purple. So yeah, he lived that, right?
Exactly. So that's, I'm hoping it's more of an homage, not so much we're going to lift that riff.
Right. But yeah,
but in a moment, it can, like, I agree with you. I think it can kind of take you out of it a little bit, because now you're not listening to that song. You're going, I've heard that before. What is that? Oh, that's Perfect Strangers. They're doing a little bit of an homage to Perfect Strangers. Now I'm thinking about Perfect Strangers. I should go listen to Perfect Strangers.
which, yeah, another 10 out of 10 album right there.
Nice. Christone, Kingfish, Ingram, a little Mississippi boy getting out there and kicking some ass. That's awesome. Before we wrap up, one question that did pop into my head as we were kind of going through your timeline, what do you feel is the heaviest band that you listen to?
Probably, I would say Sepultura would probably be
nice,
as heavy as I go. And a lot of the more hardcore, heavy things like that, it's more like I have to be in the right mood for it. It's not something I can just pop on, as opposed to a lot of other bands. But for me, like I'm a big vocals guy. I'm a big singer guy. So a lot of the more guttural death metal doesn't quite hit me right. But there are a few like that are like, okay, I can do this one, I can do that one. Like I think I mentioned earlier, Angelos Apatrida. They're a hardcore band out of Spain that I highly recommend everybody listen to. Spectacular bands, going way back in the day, like Death and obviously Slayer, Overkill. That's probably my normal heavy. But yeah, I do venture out into those lanes occasionally.
Nice, because it just adds a little color. You've already got a variety of stuff that we've played here on the show and artists that we've mentioned throughout this whole time. So that's why I ask only not to like try to put a judgment on, well, you can't handle. No, we're not that kind of podcast. It's more about just, where's your upper limit? Okay, so let's go the other way. What's like the easiest listening to where people would probably be like, really, dude, you listen to insert artist here. I'm going to say Amy Grant. Are you an Amy? No, I'm kidding.
She's a little too pure for me. No, not quite Amy Grant. I would say, a lot of, like Bee Gees, Barry Manilow, things along that line, Andy Gibb, Linda Ronstadt, love all that, kind of the old vibe.
Oh, that reminds me, do you carry any sort of enjoyment out of the classic country that your parents were spinning when you were in your youth?
I do, yeah. It's very much, it's similar to time travel radio. I mean, that's my life right there, right? Conway Twitty, Loretta Lynn, Come On, and it's like I'm right back, in the backseat of the Buick LeSabre on a road trip. So yeah, it definitely has that nostalgia factor for me.
Hell yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah, I think I went for a phase where I couldn't listen to that because it was the antithesis of what I enjoyed at the moment. And it wouldn't be until probably the 2000s that I turned back into, why am I dismissing this music that I grew up with? And, I used to check out The Gambler at the library and just go and bring it home and spin it, and artists like that. I remember, it was in my wheelhouse as far as other family members. Not so much my uncle. He was more rock and roll, and that was his wheelhouse, Southern rock and whatnot. But my aunts and various family members. So every once in a while a song will come on, or Conway Twitty will come on, and I'll think of my Aunt Mary. And so it's nice when you have those like good memories attached to music. It may be something you don't always listen to, but it'll spark those memories, and I appreciate that.
Right. Yeah, I've got a playlist that I put together again, over the years of all those songs. It'll have like Pure Prairie League and bands like that. And
nice.
Just it's great from a nostalgia factor to be like, oh man, this is such good songs. And one thing I didn't appreciate as a kid listening to it was some of the musicianship of
yes.
that, like some of the guitar solos in there, like they absolutely shred. If you threw some distortion on that would fit right in to a Judas Priest song, right?
Yeah, Roy Clark would be one of those artists where people, I think, maybe weren't appreciative of his talents. until many years later, where it's like, holy crap, that dude was shredding.
Right. Yeah. You watch the main story.
It just sounds different.
Exactly. Yeah. Just because it's unplugged.
Before we get to your bonus track to wrap up the show, I did have one question. Obviously, as somebody who listens to a podcast, that's part of your enjoyment in your life. What other podcasts do you enjoy?
So for me, like music podcast wise, I'm a big fan of Signals from Mars. Rock Strikes 10 is a big one. Hearing Joey's episode of My Life in 4 Songs, I was like, God, if that guy can pick 4 songs, anybody can. Yeah, he's definitely way more all over the place than I am. And then, also love the Grown Up Rock podcast. I'm big on that. Those guys are a blast to listen to. Again, a couple guys our age that kind of been there, done that, and interesting to hear their experiences. And then outside of that, I listen to a lot of kind of true crime podcasts. So things like Criminal and Over My Dead Body, Dead and Gone, things like that. And actually just picked up one that was kind of fun listen. Blame It on the Fame. It's all about Milli Vanilli.
Yes.
So it's kind of fun to revisit that story.
Yes, and hear them talking about it.
Right.
From those old interviews. Obviously, was it Rob that he's no longer with us? Is that correct?
Yeah, Rob, I think, is the one that passed, and Fab is still alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you checked out the Michael Jackson one then?
I have not. No. Got to put that on my list.
Yeah, that's a mini series. I forget. I think I want to say it's like 8 episodes, maybe 10. So it's one that you can kind of do in bites and still get a lot of So it's going to cover everything from Jackson 5, him coming out, to all the way till he passed on. So that's another one I'd recommend. I'm surprised I haven't talked about that on our show, or if I did, maybe you missed it.
Yeah, because he was, growing up in the era that I did, like he was a part of our lives from day one, with the Jackson 5 show all the way up through, when Thriller came out. I mean, that thing absolutely ruled the planet. Like,
yes,
you could not turn on the radio without hearing a song off of that for years.
And that's one that crossed over barriers as far as, because we were rock and roll fans, and my friend got that cassette. My friend, who was probably considers himself one of the badasses in the neighborhood, had to have that on cassette. That's how that music kind of transcended the pop genre.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you throw in like the Thriller video, like that was an absolute event. Like the hype around that coming out and like being just the first video that was kind of a movie, like a full story. He was definitely a trendsetter and on the front end of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. They had a big vision and he executed it perfectly. It's nice when the artist can do that. Like when you hear about Bohemian Rhapsody and they didn't want to do that. They're like, nobody's going to listen to that song especially for that long. It's not going to get radio play. Nobody wants it. But yet Freddie stuck to his guns and made one of the most iconic, one of the, obviously there's a lot, but it's up there. It's in that that discussion of songs that are, top songs of all time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, when you think about the structure of a song like that with the vocal breakdown and everything in it, it's like people don't do that. People don't listen to that. And yet it works.
Yep. I mean, it wasn't until
Wayne's World was
Wayne's World. Thank you. I was blanking on it.
Brought it to a resurgence. But yeah, speaking of, my older brothers, they were both big Queen fans. So yeah, Queen was kind of always there. They were always one of those bands that was part of the soundtrack of my life for sure.
Nice. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Well, thank you again for coming on and spending some time with me. I appreciate when people want to take a break from their daily lives and hang out and chat some music with some guy in the middle of the United States here. This artist that you have, this is one that I have never heard of. So another one that you've piqued my interest with. And I did sample it a little bit. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I want to spend more time with it eventually. But where does this come in, everything that you've discussed so far?
So they're kind of a newer discovery for me. Actually discovered it through the Signals from Mars podcast. And they're a Swedish band, kind of a stoner rock band called the Quill. Just discovered them through kind of one random video that somebody posted. And I was like, wow, these guys are badass. Like, let me look at them. And, kind of going back to our discussion earlier where like this is a band that's not big in the States, that's pretty big in Sweden and most of Europe. And then I looked at it and it's like, oh my God, they've got, all these albums out that I've never heard of. Let me go. And, I bought one album. I was like, well, shit, this is great. Like, let me buy another one. And, pretty soon, like I'm buying their entire discography and just diving deep into them. They've got, everything that I want. It's kind of those, the old school Sabbath kind of stoner doom vibe to it. Some great distorted guitars, cool lyrics, a good quality singer, good song structures. Every album's a little bit different thematically, but it's still them. So they've, definitely grown and expanded over the years. But their Earthrise album and the title track off of that, Earthrise, is, I think, a good starting point for people to go check out. If you're a fan of Sabbath, any stoner metal, Caius, anything like that, I think you would definitely be a fan of these guys.
And it's funny you mentioned that because as soon as I started listening to the first song, and then I realized, oh, it's not the song that you picked, and then I started skipping my way through, is my first instinct wasn't about myself. It was actually Nate. I thought, oh, I wonder if this is something that Nate would really love. And then I was listening to it more, and then I'm like, well, actually, I kind of dig it too. But that was my first instinct when I first started listening to it was, oh yeah, I got to tell Nate about these guys. So Victor Ruiz. I was like, God, I'm trying to remember his name. Signals from Mars. Victor turned you on to these guys. That's awesome.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. They've got a few things out there. Holy cow. First album in 1989.
Yeah. That's when I was just shocked when I saw that, they went that far back and, they've been pretty consistent, every 2-3 years pumping out a new album.
Yeah. Going from 86. I wonder what some of that, because they had that demo in 86. I'm curious. I'll have to make a note to make sure I check these guys out when I get to Time Travel Radio in 1986, or at least that full length in 89.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how the demo quality would be. Hell yeah. Well, cool. So hopefully you'll be turning on a whole new group of people to these guys. The Quill. Sorry.
Yes. The Quill.
Okay, so there is a break here. I was looking at their discography and, well, no, it looks like they were hitting demos and stuff. So they kept active, and then, more full length in 95 and beyond. A lot of stuff from 2001.
Yeah, from pretty much 2000 on. Yeah.
And they have a new album this year.
Yes.
Or is it coming out?
It's coming out. I don't think it's been released yet.
According to Encyclopedia Metallum, it is out as of March.
Oh, well, I'm missing one then.
Ooh, that's a cool record cover too. Yeah, check that out. Wheel of Illusion. Yeah, hell yeah, I dig that. I'm gonna dig into these guys. You've already turned me on. I'm definitely gonna send Nate a message and say, hey, go check these guys out.
All right.
Mike Jones says so. Well, thanks again, man. I do appreciate it. Nice to meet you too. Somebody we've never talked. We had a few discussions via the Patreon messessaging function, but it was a nice hang, and you showed up fully clothed, so I appreciate that. Because you never know what to expect.
Never know. Yeah, it's not naked time yet, so you're safe.
Well, that's good. So we better wrap this up before that time kicks in. Well, thanks again, man. I do really appreciate it. Thanks you for sharing your story and your songs, and hopefully a whole new band for everybody to check out, The Quill, which is following this as we wrap. So thanks, man. I do appreciate it.
You bet. My pleasure.
And thank you for the support. We do appreciate that as well. So take care, and we'll see you in future episodes of the Disciples of the Watch.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Disciples of the Watch. This episode was produced and edited by Gene Vogel. All music is property of the artist or the publisher. Please buy music and support the art we all love. Editing on this episode was done by Gene Vogel. Check out our website, dotwpod.com, for show notes, links, and more information on the show, as well as connections to social media. Don't forget to subscribe to the show using your preferred podcast application, or use our FeedBurner RSS feed listed on our website. Plug it into your browser or whatever app you're using, and then you will get all of the goodness moving forward. And you can also download the show as MP3 files from dotwpod.com. If you'd like to support the show, please click on the Support Us link at our website. As well, we have Patreon, so you can do a monthly contribution if you so desire, or purchase some of our merch from our website. Thank you for listening, friends, and stay heavy.